Hello, everybody. I don't know if we're actually live yet, so this might be glitchy for a moment while we are waiting. Hello, everybody. Okay, maybe we're live, maybe we're not live. We will find out. I wanted to hop on here really quickly and elaborate on my post on Monday, which was all about the 3 root causes of painful periods. So please feel free if you're hopping on. I would love to hear from you. Comment, let me know where you're joining from. I'm going to keep this really short because I know that everybody is busy. You guys have all mentioned to me just how busy and overwhelmed you are, so I want to make sure that you get some really good information out of today, but also the only way that I can know that is if you give me feedback. So if you read my post that may or may not have resonated with you, but I spent a lot of time, most frustrating life until I had my first daughter, just managing my painful periods. I mean, I tried to um, medicate, which was using ibuprofen or Tylenol or naproxen or a heating pad, what have you. And then as I began to learn how my body was functioning and why I was having painful periods to begin with, which is what we're going to dive into today, I started focusing on, clean eating, getting rid of toxins from my environment, which was super beneficial and overall for my health, but it wasn't enough to actually resolve the painful periods. So every month without fail, I mean, I would eat organic foods. I got rid of GMOs from my environment. I got rid of toxins from my environment. But every month, I would still have these painful periods. So if this is you, let me know, raise your hand in the comments, because you are for sure not alone in this, okay? Really, those cravings, I, would be left like, gosh, I thought I was doing enough. And if you are feeling where you're like, I've been doing all of the things, I hear this a lot from women that I talk to, and I can relate to it very much because I did the same thing, where still having these painful periods because I'm eating clean. I eat an organic diet. I eat lots of salads every day. And really, it's not enough. So that is like a foundation that we are all need to thrive, right? Is having whole, nourishing foods, removing toxins, etc. Those are all very beneficial. But there are 3 main things that you are missing if you are still having painful periods. So we're going to dive into that. But before we do, I want to hear in the comments if this is you, if you have experienced, if you're experiencing painful periods, if your periods have become more painful or heavier in flow since having children, or anything in between. Okay, so like I said, clean eating is a great stepping stone. It's that foundation that we all should have because our body is not meant to be processing the level of toxic burden that's actually in our environment today. So, the 3 things that are contributing to your painful periods, number 1 is inflammation. And we're going to kind of break this down into more detail for each of these. But the first one is inflammation. The second one is mineral and nutrient deficiencies. And the third one is inadequate clearance of estrogen through your detox pathways. So we went into quite a bit of detail on this on the masterclass last week. If you missed it and you want the replay, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to get that to you. But the first one being inflammation. How many of you have started to hear that as kind of a buzzword that you're now kind of starting to tune out because very big deal. Inflammatory diseases lead to long-term consequences like is basically just a fancy way of saying there is something that is going on in your body that is causing this inflammatory response. And that inflammatory response releases this whole host of things like cytokines, which if we have the right amount, that can actually be really good. But in the instance of painful cramping, those cytokines, those inflammatory or pro-inflammatory cytokines, actually cause significant pain and cramping, and can actually be one of the reasons why some women have pain around ovulation as well. So, inflammation. Now, sources of inflammation, of course, can include our diet. Stress can cause inflammation because it affects our antioxidants, which then get depleted, and then we don't have enough of the counteractive nutrients to get rid of that inflammation. Stress is inflammatory. So, if we are not managing our stress, if we're not moving our body, those things can actually lead to chronic inflammation, okay? Things like food allergies. So, food sensitivities or food allergies, anything on that spectrum can lead to chronic inflammation in the body. Now, a lot of doctors will begin looking for inflammation using something like a CRP test, which is the C reactive protein. There's also a couple other tests that you can do to look for inflammation. Things like high cholesterol, or an imbalance in cholesterol can actually let us know that there's something going on with inflammation in the body that would be leading to painful periods, okay? So, but not all of those show up on testing because they're not always able to see all of the different little things that influence whether or not we're going to have inflammation or not. So, inflammation. How many of you experience like swelling around your fingers or puffiness around your eyes? If you notice that you retain water around your cycle, or you're having painful periods, those are all indicators that there's inflammation going on in the body. Okay, that's the first one. The second one would actually be mineral and nutrient deficiencies. So, in all of my years of research before, officially kind of putting the Happy Hormones program together, one of the key indicators of pain, and this can actually be, like I said, breast tenderness, but it can also be painful cramping around your cycle, is mineral and nutrient deficiencies, because we actually need, if you think about it, your uterus is a muscle. It's a giant muscle. It is one of the strongest muscles in your body. And so, of course, if there's inflammation, then our muscle is going to feel that. If there's nutrient and mineral deficiencies, that muscle is going to feel that, and it's going to express it through painful periods, okay? So, mineral and nutrient deficiencies. So, these are things that we are no longer getting in our food supply because of some of the toxins that are in the environment, the depletion of minerals and nutrients from our soil. So, a lot of times we have to get those nutrients through other sources, such as supplemental vitamins, etc., or making sure that we are getting good organic, fruits and vegetables that are as close to the ground as you can get them. So, mineral and nutrient deficiencies. So, when we break that down, these are, and this is vague only because, like, if we were to do a full analysis, it would take me hours and hours and hours, and I really want this to be like succinct for you guys. Things like magnesium, zinc, the other one that I'm thinking of that starts with an M. I'll come back to it. So magnesium, zinc, calcium. These are things that are really missing from our nutrient mix, and then all of the trace minerals. Okay, those trace minerals, if you think of them, they are things that actually help vitamins and nutrients to get into the cells of the body. So we need to have those minerals and nutrients in our diet through our food, and oftentimes through supplementation as well. The other thing with that is fatty acids. So fatty acids, which are things like fish oil, the oils that we cook with, have different molecular breakdowns that our body actually needs for our hormones to function properly. So we've actually found through a ton of research that inadequate fatty acid balance or a fatty acid imbalance can actually lead to painful periods. Okay, is this making sense to everybody so far? I don't want to be too technical, nerdy, etc. But having those minerals through targeted nutrition can actually balance out the cramping there. And the painful periods. So the third one, and this one is often missed. Actually, I see this missed in nearly every single patient that I work with, every client that I work with in the Happy Hormones program. This area, for some reason, just gets completely missed. So, and that is inadequate estrogen clearance through your detox pathways. So, we've talked a lot about the detox pathways in this group, that the problem isn't really estrogen dominance. The problem is that your body's not clearing estrogen, and it needs to be. So, what do we do to solve that, right? So, the inadequate estrogen clearance. This is what happens when your estrogen is not clearing properly. The surface level that you will see, hopefully you can see this, is that you're going to have higher estrogen on your labs if they're doing the right labs. If they're not doing the right labs, it's kind of inconclusive. We can't tell because they're not getting the right information. So, high estrogen. Now, your estrogen and your progesterone are like a seesaw. They're going to kind of go like this with each other. So, if your estrogen is high, your progesterone typically is going to be low, unless there's some other things going on. So, when we begin to work on detox pathways and start clearing estrogen through the body, your progesterone naturally begins to level out, okay? So what we do in the Happy Hormones program in the hormone flush is we actually get those detox pathways opened up, which naturally begins to bring that estrogen down. Now, if your body is not clearing estrogen through those detox pathways, what's going to happen is your body has to dump those excess hormones, hormone metabolites, and toxins somewhere in the body. And the closest organs are your gut and your reproductive organs for women. So then what does that lead to? That leads to painful cramping. I'm sorry, it's dark in here, guys. I'm trying to fix the lighting. That leads to painful cramping, heavy periods, prolonged bleeding. So, like a lot of times when we see women who are bleeding for 7 to 10 days, that's a really strong indicator that their detox pathways are not open, which is a big problem, because then what ends up happening is physicians will begin looking at the surface level, which is your progesterone's too low, your estrogen's too high, some of these other hormones are out of whack, and they're focusing on fixing those peripheral problems because they don't really know what to focus on, and that's okay. That's I'm not bashing anybody. I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody or talk down about them, but it's really we have to focus on what matters and what is actually going to fix the problem. Clean eating is not enough to fix the problem. We have to use targeted nutrition specific to getting that mineral balance back where it needs to be, targeting the fatty acids, and then opening up those detox pathways. So if you are stuck with painful periods and you're like, I don't even know where to start, I've tried all the different things, or you haven't tried all the different things, but you want some clarity on what you should be focusing on next, then let me know below and I will reach out to you and we will get you sorted out to where you know exactly what to focus on.